Hello, ladies, gentlemen, boys, and girls. You can see my little friend down there. Look at that. We're going to talk about him in a second. We're going to talk about Chris from Good Looking Loser. Look at this handsome little stud. This guy, Chris, was a guy that had a huge impact on me in terms of dating, in terms of confidence, in terms of my self improvement. He had a massive, massive impact on my life. His website is down. It has been down for about a year, site offline. And so, something that we like to do here on this channel is go over some of the articles that resonated the most with me. A lot of these articles he wrote like 10 or so years ago. So I go through them. I talk about how they helped me, what I would say a little bit differently, or what I've learned that I can maybe add on to what he said. And we're going to talk about an article called Mr. Juxtaposition is so hot right now. And this was an article that had a massive, massive impact on my life because I used to pigeonhole myself. And like a lot of you, I thought I had to be some extreme version of like a super masculine alpha male. I thought I had to be perfect. I could never have any emotions. I could never have anything that deviated even slightly from that perfect ideal alpha male James Bond, David Goggins, everything is perfect, top G, everything's exactly what it should be. And I didn't really allow any space for me to be who I wanted to be. I was too busy trying to live out someone else's dream of what a man should be. And so this article in particular from Good Looking Loser helped me see that human beings, men and women, human beings are not one dimensional. You're allowed to be whoever you want to be. If you're a little bit nerdy, you're allowed to be nerdy. If you're a little bit of a dork like I can be, you're a bit silly, you're a bit, of a goofball, great, you're allowed to embrace that. In fact, some people will love that part of you, some people won't. But if we worry about the people that won't like that part of us, then that's just us playing not to lose. We have to tiptoe around and be like, oh God, I hope no one finds out the parts of me that I don't like. Fuck that. I'd rather be me, unashamedly, unabashedly me. And if people resonate with that, that's amazing. If they don't, that's okay too. Not everybody on the planet is going to like me. So this article really gave me this permission, I guess, to show my like softer side or show my more authentic, honest, real side. Good looking loser, this guy that again, if you look at the pictures of him, he looks like this big fucking alpha male, and he was. He was on steroids. Like he looks like a little bit of a, he would embrace the label douchebag. He looks like a douchebag in the most beautiful, wholesome phrasing of that or wholesome use of that phrase. But he had, and we're going to talk about this guy in a second, he had plushies just like this guy down here. Look at my little boy, my little banana. And the reason I like this banana is because you can go like that, and then you can be like, surprise, and he's fucking adorable. And I have a whole bunch of plushies down here, which I'm going to talk about throughout this video because that's what Good Looking Loser talked about in this article. He, this big fucking alpha male with steroids and big muscles and all of that, had a bunch of plushies and he had a softer side to himself. And so I talk about this a lot in my content. If you have a genuine, honest, loving, warm, kind, compassionate side to yourself, you're allowed to embrace that. Obviously, yes, looking a little masculine, having some great looks and some confidence and all of that, grooming yourself, dressing well, adding some muscle, losing some weight, those things will absolutely help you when it comes to dating, especially like dating women, of course. But it isn't the only thing that you have to offer. You don't have to be this one-dimensional like fuck boy who's a big, strong alpha male. All that we're doing is improving our looks and embracing who we are a little bit more every day. I had this thought come into my head the other day. I have no idea where it came from. It just popped straight into my head. Our challenge and our reward is being ourselves. That is the big challenge, particularly when it comes to dating. Men and women struggle with that. Being yourself can be quite a challenge sometimes. You're like, what if I'm not good enough? What if I'm not an alpha male? What if I'm not a good little girl who does everything that she's supposed to do and I'm feminine and I'm nice and I'm all of that bullshit? It can be quite a challenge to actually be yourself because there's the fear of the judgment. That fear of like, what if someone doesn't like me? What if I get rejected? What if they break up with me if I try and show them my true, authentic, real self? But then the reward, if you can do that, is you get to actually be you. You don't have to be some other person. You don't have to be a caricature. You don't have to be what other people are willing to accept. One of my favorite skateboarders, Andy Anderson, who has my name. That's probably why I like him so much. But he's just such a lovely human being, and he's so fucking cool. And he's like ridiculously sick at skateboarding. Like, dude is just an absolute fucking beast at doing all these sort of like freestyle cool tricks. And just like a lovely fucking human being as well. And this is one of my favorite quotes from him. If you're you, they either accept you or they don't. But if you change, then you're not you anymore, and then you're just whatever they are willing to accept. That is my favorite fucking quote from an absolute legend of a skateboarder. And that's basically what this article today is about. You know, go be out there and be fearlessly, unashamedly you. You are the only person on the entire planet that is capable of being you. That's your fucking job. Your job is not to be some caricature of someone else or be what someone else tells you to be, including me. That's why I will never tell you who to be. All I will ever say is go be the best you that you can be. You know, so many of you are so desperate to change who you are and be like, I'm a fucking loser. That's why I dropped the kill your inner loser username. So many of you are like, I'm a fucking loser. I want to change who I am. I want to get rid of all of that. No, go be you and then just slowly improve you a little bit every day. All right, let's get straight into this article from Mr. Good Looking Loser. Mr. Juxtaposition is so hot right now is the title of this article, again written way back in 2014. That guy. We're going to talk about what type of guy or lifestyle is most appealing to the hottest, coolest, and usually most popular girls. Hot women meet a lot of guys. Yeah, I think that goes without saying. Most are nice guy pushovers that might provide for a nice husband or loyal boyfriend, but lack excitement, edge, and sexual experience. Other guys are bad boy types. These guys are certainly the type that hot chicks tend to sleep with, but they often lack the necessary characteristics to be a long-term or even a medium-term boyfriend. Yeah, he goes on to say that, or fuck buddy. Yeah, and this is the dichotomy, isn't it? So many people are aware of this dichotomy. There's the nice guys versus the bad boys. How come girls always sleep with the bad boys? Because girls are trained to sleep with a guy who has confidence and might be good at sex and is attractive and cool and interesting. And what girls or what most people want is a little bit of both. Most people would love a guy that's a nice guy, like he's a decent human being, but he's also good at sex. That's why I say, you know, don't be a nice guy, be a decent guy. Be a decent human being with kindness, compassion, love, empathy. Have that big, beautiful fucking heart beating in your big, beautiful fucking chest, you know, surrounded by a whole bunch of muscle and some, you know, gold chains and some cool stuff. And then just go out there and talk to as many women as you can. You know, embrace both sides of them. You don't have to be a bad boy. You don't have to be a nice guy. You can just be you and work on being you a little bit more each week, each month, each year. Though these are polar opposites, both these types are often one-dimensional and generic. Yes, the hottest sexually active girls usually experience several guys of both types before they're 21. Yeah. After a while, these girls become somewhat disinterested in both types. That is the point, yep. And they aren't as apt to sign on for an uncommitted fuck buddy relationship. So just like some hot bad boy guy, you know, unless this guy has serious boyfriend potential as well. Yeah, you could rephrase that as like, why would I want to hook up with a fuck boy who might be ridiculously attractive, just so unbelievably hot, so cool, rich, charming, and all of that? But if he's not going to stick around, or if he's not going to be nice to me, or if he's not going to treat me like a human being, like what I've done that. I've done that a bunch of times. Why would I want to keep doing that? And so a lot of the times when we hear these stories of like, why do women get with assholes? It's usually like 18 to 25-year-old women that get with like assholes, so to speak, or like the bad boys. Not that you're just an asshole just because, you know, you have a little bit of edge to you, but you know what I mean. It's usually when they're younger. And any woman who's over 25 will tell you that. She's like, yeah, I went through my little like hoe phase and I got with a bunch of bad boys and yeah, they just didn't stick around. Who would have guessed? And it's like, well, yeah, like why would they stick around? They're in their hoe phase. And so you were both being uncommitted. Now you're looking for something a little bit more ongoing, even if it's just a casual, you know, friends with benefits relationship. Yeah, you're going to go find the guys who have a little bit of boyfriend potential, or in other words, who are just decent, who are just nice. Again, not that there's anything wrong with being a fuckboy, but you know what I mean. So he goes on to say many of these girls even stop getting excited about meeting random guys, and they leave the bar or the club scene. Yep. Often turning their back to their social circles to go find an attractive, cool guy to get serious with. Not surprisingly, around this age, 22 to 25, girls are starting to watch their friends get married and feel additional pressure to get serious. Yeah, there can be a lot of social pressure on men and women. It's just that women tend to feel it a little bit earlier. Men will get that same sort of pressure when you hit your 30s, and definitely by your mid 30s, people are starting to put pressure on you. And so, yeah, he goes to explain exactly what we talked about before, the dichotomy. This is a trend amongst hot, popular girls, aged 22 plus, that think that bad boys only want to fuck and nice guys are only boyfriend material. Yeah, a lot of people make that very binary, you know? And this is the whole point of this article is like you're allowed to be a bit of a bad boy. Like you're allowed to be very honest about your sexuality. You're allowed to embrace your masculinity. In fact, lots of people love that. And then you're also allowed to throw in a little bit of what you might call nice guy behavior or nice guy mindsets. I say this all the time. I, Andy, am a nice human being. I'm not perfect with that, but I try and be as kind as I can, as compassionate as I can. I help old ladies cross the street. I try and be as nice to all of you as I possibly can be in my content. I'm very genuinely loving to my girlfriend, to my coaching clients, to my friends. I try and be as nice as I humanly possibly can be. And I also try and be not bad, but like, I'm going to do what I want. That's the definition of a bad boy, isn't it? No one's going to manipulate me or tell me what to do. No one's going to force me to do something if I don't genuinely want to do it. I am, the one that is in control of my life. That's the most loving and kind thing that I could ever do for myself and for everyone else. If I do what I want to do, as long as it doesn't hurt anybody else, then I'm in a much better position to give out love and niceness and kindness to other people. So you can have both. And that was the point of this article. This article really blew my mind, because it was the first time I started realizing that bad boys versus nice guys is not a dichotomy. It's not one or the other. It's almost like a spectrum where you have complete and utter psychopaths, like a fucking psychopath on one extreme, and then an absolute doormat of a human being on the other extreme. And then you just find where you want to be on that spectrum. Or you take a little bit of again, I wouldn't use the word bad boys, but you take a little bit of that assertive, confident male traits, and any of you women, all of this applies too. How many fucking feminists become like the bad boy of feminists? They just become bossy, grouchy, bitchy. They hate men. They're like, I love collecting male tears. And or they'll do the opposite. Lots of women are like, I have to please everybody all the time and be a good person who just shuts up and does what she's told. So all of this shit applies to men and women. And it's about figuring out who you want to be. That is the point of this article, rather than who you think you're supposed to be. And I mentioned that we were going to cover a few of my different plushies. And so this is Carrot. This is Mr. Carrot. He's a cute little carrot. Look at this little boy. Look at that happy little face. We're going to cover a bunch of my plushies as we talk through this article. And you're going to find out why the further we get in this article. So he goes on to say, as you should know, your lifestyle achievements resume plays a factor in retention, as in how long people will stick around and keep seeing you, like whether or not someone wants to stick with you and be like a friends with benefits or maybe something more than that. And committed relationships, but not as much in how you get laid. So what he means by that is you can kind of just be the bad boy and people will fuck you. Of course they will. Or you can be the bad girl, so to speak, like just be sexy, but have no personality. Maybe don't be a kind person. Maybe be very rude to strangers and all of that. That's fine. People will still have sex with you. It's just that they might not stick around for very long. And this is where a lot of the fundamental misunderstanding comes from between bad boys versus nice guys. People will go, how come all the bad boys get all the girls? And it's like, yeah, they get laid with the girls. But those girls don't want to stick around long term. In fact, they complain about the bad boys, don't they? That's what every supposed nice guy complains about. He's like, how come she keeps getting with bad boys, but then she complains about them? Because exactly what we're talking about here. She gets with these guys, she will fuck them, but she doesn't want to be with them long term because they're not particularly any deeper than just a handsome penis, basically. Again, not that there's anything wrong with that, but she might be looking for something a little deeper. And so she's the one that's making it binary. She's going, I'm going to go to the most bad boy guy and not screen for any sort of long-term or even medium-term qualities that might make me want to stick around with him and even just be a friends with benefits. So she's making it binary. She's making it nice guys versus bad boys. He is doing the same thing, like the nice guy complaining about it. And so the answer is obviously you can be both. Your lifestyle, among many other factors, is a significant factor in determining whether you are seen as boyfriend material, like a nice guy, boyfriend potential, which is like a bit of both, or a scumbag, like a fuckboy or any of that sort of stuff. These were terms that he used in his, content a lot, but you're basically talking about like nice guys versus like bad boys versus somewhere in the middle. And again, all of this applies to women. A lot of women will just absolutely max out their sexual potential and they put a lot of effort into that, and every guy wants to fuck them and all of that. But maybe they don't have much of a personality there, or maybe they just haven't worked on being nice to other people. And so lots of guys will fuck her, but maybe she's a little bit unpleasant to be around. So they'll have sex with her for a while, and then they'll be like, fuck this, I'm out. She's not very fun to be around. Maybe she's jealous, maybe she's insecure, maybe she's controlling, maybe she has mood swings, maybe she's just not nice, like she's just not a kind person. And so you'll have sex with her, but you won't show her off to your friends. You won't see her long term. So all of this applies to women and men. It's somewhat of a misconception that you'll get laid simply by improving your lifestyle. Yeah, and so what he's talking about there is like a lot of people use self-improvement. Women will do the same thing sometimes where they're like, but I'm working on myself. How come women aren't falling into my lap? And it's like, bro, you have to go like talk to them. Just because you hit the gym and you look like a bodybuilder doesn't mean they're going to come up to you and be like, hi, big boy, would you like to go out with me? No, you're 99% of the time still going to have to make the move. So he goes on to say that, yeah, improving your value lifestyle has become the number one excuse to procrastinate and not talk to women. You're going to have to go outside and actually say hello to women. Any woman would fucking tell you that. She'd be like, I'm scared. I'm not going to talk to guys. Like, you got to fucking talk to us if you want us to go out with you. So just because you improved your lifestyle does not mean that women will start falling into your lap. He goes on to say, a lot of guys take up girl-friendly hobbies such as yoga and salsa dancing, thinking it will help them get laid. It might, but ultimately that is because he is talking and has access to more warm girls, like girls that already like him, not because he is hotter because he does yoga. Yeah, to be very clear with this, so I have a friend who every woman except for one that he has ever dated, he met through salsa dancing, but he talks to them while he's there. He makes friends with them. He gets to know them. He gets to know them over like 6 months or something. And then eventually he says, hey, by the way, are you single? Yes, I am. Oh my God, why do you ask? Well, I'd love to take you out for a coffee sometime. Or, would you like to go to the movies with me? Do you want to grab dinner with me? Like, he will actually hit on them. So if you don't, then yeah, you're just going to have a whole bunch of women that have a crush on you and are sitting around waiting for you to make a fucking move. And then getting heartbroken when you don't make a move and they go, maybe he doesn't really like me. Maybe I'm ugly. Maybe I'm not pretty enough. It's like, bro, you're just breaking a bunch of poor women's hearts. Just actually ask them out. Hey, like, there's probably a bunch of women listening to this right now clapping, going like, yes, for fuck's sakes, please ask us out. All right, so it goes on to say, I feel like it's good for you to know what type or lifestyle of guy gets the hottest girls the most excited. And you can probably already guess where this is going. Someone who has improved themselves and looks as attractive as they can. And you don't have to start out attractive. You can just improve yourself. I have so much content on how to improve your looks. And then someone who on top of that is just a nice person, like a decent human being. You have kindness and compassion in your heart. You're chill. You talk about some cool topics. You've just improved your personality and you have some social skills. Like, you don't have to be perfect with any of that, but a guy that has a little bit of both. So he goes on to say, the type of guy that gets the hottest girls most excited is the type of guy who girls brag to her friends about. The type of guy who can keep a hot girl staring at her phone for 16 hours at a time. This is him just getting excited about what kind of guy we're going to talk about. So let me tell you about that guy. I call him Mr. Juxtaposition. So this is the kind of guy that girls will line up for and be like, hell yes, can I please date this guy? I fucking want to get with this guy. He's so hot. I want to have sex with him and I want him to stick around. I really like him. In other words, he's a catch, Mr. Juxtaposition. He's a walking paradox. Even considered to be a hypocrite to normal guys, that don't get much action, and to less attractive women that consider elite guys to be unattainable douchebags. Yeah, none of this is about being a douchebag, but some people might call you that because, people get jealous sometimes, and that's okay. I've been jealous and I've hated other people. I'm sure all of you can relate to being jealous and then being a little unkind to other people. Though multidimensional, Mr. Juxtaposition is not necessarily well-rounded or super interesting. Like, he's not perfect. And we will take this moment for me to show you Mr. Hamburger Look at this cute little boy. Look at that cute little face. He's got lettuce and cheese and hamburger, and he is a hamburger. So, Mr. Juxtaposition has at least two significant things about him that seem to contradict themselves. Or you might say he's more than just a one-dimensional character. There's a little bit of depth to Mr. Juxtaposition. Just like there's a little bit of depth to all of you listening, you've probably just been fucking hiding it because you're scared that women won't like that part of you. And a lot of you women have things about yourself that you've been scared that guys won't like. And so this article is about giving yourself the permission to show off your little fucking plushies on a video when you're supposed to be a big alpha male. Not that I ever fucking give that impression anyway, but you get the point. This article is about embracing the sides of yourself that are yourself. Usually Mr. Juxtaposition is both edgy and not edgy. This makes him unique. The edgy side of him, like the masculine side of him, the side of him that does what he wants, as long as it's not hurting someone else, doesn't, get butt hurt if someone says no to him. He has abundance mentality, like he's okay with people saying no. He has love in his heart if someone says no. He's like, fuck yeah, bro. This woman said no to me. I don't give a shit. I'll go talk to the next woman. I have that abundance mentality. The guy who's not a pushover, that's what we mean when we say edgy. This makes him a player, or you could say at least attractive to women. The not edgy side of him makes him a keeper. Yeah, that's the reason why someone would want to stick around and keep hanging out with you, keep being friends with benefits with you, keep being sexually into you, because you have a deeper side to you that isn't just sex. Like, women can go and get sex from hot guys anytime they want. I think we all kind of know that. Every woman pretty much knows that. Not all of them might go out and do that because there can be social repercussions or fear of social repercussions for that. What if I get called a slut? What if my friends find out? What if he hurts me? What if he breaks my heart? What if I don't know? What if I'm shy and nervous and insecure and I don't know what to do on a date? But women know inherently that, yeah, I can go and have sex with a hot guy if I really want to. That's pretty easy. But not all of them can keep him around. And that is the pain, I guess you would say, or that is the challenge that a lot of women feel. They're like, I can have sex with a lot of hot guys, but they don't stick around, and that hurts me and lowers my self-esteem. Fair enough. But how do I keep a guy around? So women want the guy that's edgy or confident, you would say, and not a pushover. He's a confident man, but also is a bit of a keeper. He's got some deeper stuff. He's the kind of guy you would show off to your friends, and then you'd go home and he would fuck the shit out of you and you'd have the best sex of your life. That's what most women and most men want too, by the way. Men want a woman that's an angel in the streets and a complete and utter whore in the sheets. Angel in the streets, whore in the sheets. That's what men want. So men and women want this. We don't want someone that's binary, that's like a complete boring pushover, but at least they're nice. That's boring. But at the same time, we don't want someone who's like crazy good at sex and just super attractive, but that's all they have to offer. We want a little bit of both. We want the best of both worlds. And so you can be the best of both worlds. All right, let's give some very basic examples of Mr. Juxtaposition. A stockbroker, who's supposed to be like all prim and proper and wearing a suit, who's also into tattoos or body art. An athlete who's supposed to be, almost like a gym bro, or they're supposed to be like just super dedicated to their sport or their athleticism, who also plays the piano or does poetry. A business owner who's probably supposed to be like hardworking and just do nothing but that, who's also into something completely unrelated to his business and personality. Yeah. A computer programmer who's supposed to be nerdy and just like a dweeb and all of that kind of stuff. And so many of my clients, by the way, are computer programmers, or, shout outs to the fucking coders out there. That's like, I swear, 70% of my coaching clients. But someone who's also into MMA and training for real fights. Yeah, that would be a little surprising, wouldn't it? A lawyer who's supposed to be like obsessed with money and just hardcore into that lifestyle, who's also into surfing, extreme sports, and rock climbing. Yeah, that'd be a bit of a surprise. And so you can see each one of these is almost like people will make up an assumption about who you are based on like one part of your personality. But then if you have a different part of you that's completely different from that, or just a juxtaposition to that, people get intrigued. They're like, oh, that's interesting. So you're a computer programmer, but you're also a bodybuilder and you're attractive and you take care of your hygiene. I mean, any of you who work in the tech industry will know, bro, if you just put some effort into your fucking appearance, and when you work in the tech industry, people are intrigued by that because they look at you and they're like, oh, this guy probably works I don't know. I don't know, maybe he's a personal trainer or some shit. They're like, what do you do for work? You must be a personal trainer, right? And you're like, no, I do coding. Like, I'm hardcore nerdy. And they're like, really? But you don't seem like that. Or you dress very cool or something, and then you're a computer programmer. People are like, holy shit, what? Really? It's intriguing. It's really interesting because you're like, wow, this person didn't fit the mold. They're not boring, in other words. They're not just a stereotype. I mean, speaking of stereotypes, any of you who are Asian, you want to really break that mold, get semi-decent at talking to women. That will break the fucking mold. Now you become a fetish. Do you know how many women are into Asian guys, especially like Korean, like K-pop bands and shit like that? There are so many women that love Asian guys. They just don't like the personality that comes along with it. And so if you build yourself a decent personality, like you can just talk to women, you're like somewhat confident at that. Maybe you hit the gym a little bit, and so you're not skinny like most Asian guys. Holy fuck, you become like a fetish. I've said this a million times in content. Imogen, my girlfriend, her favorite, like her absolute favorite type of guy is an Asian guy who's decent with women and has some muscles. Like sometimes we'll be walking around, we'll see like an Asian guy who's just like put a lot of effort into his looks. He has some muscle, he dresses well. And I'll just point the guy out and I'll be like, I bet you fucking like that's your type, right? And she'll just be like, yeah, that's my type. Yeah, 100%. So there are so many girls out there that love that juxtaposition of you not fitting the mold or not fitting the stereotype. And you can flip that in reverse too. Like how many, holy fuck, there's an entire industry around like gamer girls, right? Like how many times do guys go, I wish I could find a girl who was like pretty or cute, but also she would play video games with me. Like, you know, I would love that. Like that's a fucking exact perfect example of a juxtaposition. More examples, a doctor who does some part-time acting or modeling, a bodybuilder who has piercings, or you could say a bodybuilder who doesn't have body dysmorphia. Like a bodybuilder who's chill about their body and makes other people feel good about their body too. An accountant who's into sculpting or makes his own art. An athlete that's into fashion and isn't gay. A pharmacist that has a wild side and jumps out of planes. A musician in a band that has muscles and is ripped while most of his buddies just smoke weed and sit there. An Ivy League type guy who isn't fucking boring, yet who also has a motorcycle and does CrossFit. To be fair, there's been quite a few Ivy League clients that I've had. You're not always boring just because you went to Ivy League. A guy with a serious personality that's taking acting or comedy classes. Yeah, that's a really fucking big one, even if he sucks at it. Yeah. Do you know how many of my coaching clients are very like nerdy, serious people, but they're like, I want to learn some social skills. I want to learn how to talk to women and just make friends and, you know, talk to guys and make friends. I'm going to take improv classes, or I'm going to do stand-up comedy so I can like get decent at being funny and witty and social skills and stuff like that. A meathead, which is a term that doesn't get used much anymore, like a guy who's like a jock, like a bodybuilder, big muscle guy, who is pursuing a degree in chemical engineering. Yeah, wouldn't that be a nice juxtaposition? A super masculine tough guy who does volunteer work or devotes himself to a humanitarian cause. That is the best example of a juxtaposition that we've had in this article that we're talking about. You know, you can be that very edgy masculine guy who's like hyper super fucking masculine, and like you don't let people walk all over you. You know, you have some boundaries, all of that stuff. And then you help old ladies cross the street, or you go feed the homeless, or, you know, you see one of your friends is going through some tough shit and you're like, bro, like, let's fucking grab a beer, bro. I'll look after you. I'm here for you, bro. You got this. Like, you could also use the juxtaposition example of a super masculine guy, which is what a lot of you want to be, who is honest and authentic with his fucking feelings. Like, let me get big and serious about this one for a second. You can be a hyper super masculine man who people respect and look up to, who is then honest and open with his feelings and his vulnerability. In fact, that makes you maybe the most attractive juxtaposition that you could ever be to women. That is what most women say all the fucking time. Guys, men have been telling us this since the dawn of time. And any of you women listening, you're probably going like, yes, thank you. Women since the dawn of time have been saying, I wish men would share their emotions with me a little bit more. I wish they would tell me how they feel. I wish they would communicate more. I wish my partner would learn to communicate a little better. I wish men would tell me what's in their head or what's in their heart. I wish men wouldn't just bottle everything up. Men or women want a masculine guy who also has the juxtaposition of not being fucking afraid of his feelings. In fact, those two things go together well, don't they? So many times guys will be obsessed with being this super masculine, hyper masculine, alpha male, courageous fucking warrior, but then they run away in fear from their emotions and feelings. Is that very courageous? Not really. And that's not to shame anyone that's in that position. It took me a lot of time to be okay with my feelings. It took me a lot of practice to be honest. I was fucking terrified of telling women how I felt or what was in my head. I was terrified of telling my male friends as well. It took me a lot of courage. That's the point. It's very courageous, and most women, the vast majority of human beings, will see you as courageous if you're honest and fearlessly honest. Even if you're afraid, that's okay. But you get to the point where you're fearlessly honest about your feelings. Probably one of the biggest reasons that you watching this right now are here is because I'm fucking fearless. Even when I'm terrified, I still do it anyway. At sharing my fucking feelings. I'm vulnerable and honest with all of you. I put myself out there. I don't hold back. There's pictures of my fucking penis on the internet. I've been about as vulnerable as I could ever possibly be here. Told you all about my depression, my suicidal years. Told you all about when I went to prison when I was 19. I've shared it all, baby. And that looks courageous to the vast majority of human beings. So you can be that super masculine, hyper masculine, tough guy who also has a little bit of a softer side. Speaking of which, this is my strawberry. Look at this cute little strawberry. Strawberry's looking blissed out. That's how you want to live your life. Imagine you feel like that all the time. Look at that. You'd be fucking blissed out, boy. I don't know if this strawberry's on drugs, but strawberry's having a good time. All right, back to the article. Another example is a rich kid who reads to underprivileged children or volunteers at a local hospital or gives money to charity or isn't obsessed with money or is grateful. I mean, wouldn't that be a beautiful juxtaposition? A rich kid who is actually grateful for the money that they have. And there are lots of people like that, but that's the point. You look like a very interesting juxtaposition when you're like that. And the final one, virtually any guy who knows how to cook really well. Yeah, that's, yeah, girls love that, obviously. Even if Mr. Juxtaposition isn't great or super experienced at his hobby, yeah, that doesn't even matter. The simple fact that he has a paradox passion, or you just have different sides to your personality, makes him unique, cool, and ultimately sexy. I say this all the time. There's an archetype called the lover archetype, which is where you're that masculine man who does what he wants, without hurting other people and all of that stuff. But then you care about you care about women's emotions. You care about them having a great time in the bedroom. That's called the lover archetype. You're a masculine man who wants women to have a great time. You want no one to come to you without leaving feeling a little bit better, without being a little bit happier. That's the lover archetype. That's sexy. Same thing applies to women. Any of you women, if you practice your bedroom skills a little bit, get decent at looking as good as you possibly can, and then work on having a wonderful, interesting, cool personality. You don't have to be perfect with that, but you just work on improving a little bit your personality, as well as your looks, as well as a little bit of your sex skills. Holy fuck, you will be you'll feel like absolutely, like insanely, like or irresistible. Or at the very least, you'll be above average in comparison to the usual generic nice guy or bad boy. Yeah, you'll stand out. It doesn't even matter if the hobby or passion isn't chick friendly. That doesn't matter at all. Or particularly appealing to women. Doesn't matter at all. I've never found that matters. It's more that you're just like a deep, interesting person. You have more sides to you. There are more layers to the onion that the other person wants to unravel and go like, oh, you're a lawyer, but you're into bodybuilding. That's interesting. Are there many lawyers that are into bodybuilding? And you're like, fuck no. So here's a really good example of one that I had recently. I did a coaching call with a guy who is a divorce lawyer, and I'm sure you could imagine that there are a lot of stereotypes with people who are divorce lawyers, correct? But talking to him and getting to know him and coaching him and all of that, we talked at the end. I was like, so what's your job like? What's it like divorce lawyers? Like, what's it like being a divorce lawyer? And he was like, well, I actually have a very spiritual mindset with it and a very like loving and peaceful mindset to it. And I see people as coming to me and it's almost like it's the end of one chapter of their life. And now all they see in front of them is pain and uncertainty and fear and doubt. And so a big part of what I do, it's almost like counseling. I just tell them, I promise you're going to be okay. And I promise right now you probably hate your wife and she hates you, or you hate your husband and he hates you. But I promise you both will get through this. And I promise it'll be okay with the kids. And he basically like just gives them a nice message of hope. And that is not what I would have expected a divorce lawyer to do. It's amazing that he does. Like, that's exactly what I would want my divorce lawyer to do. But I asked him, is that common? Like, are there other people doing that? Because that's a beautiful thing you're doing, my man. You're basically counseling them. Like, holy shit, you're giving them therapy at maybe the most painful point in their life. That's beautiful. Are there other people doing that? And he's like, I've been on the lookout for it for quite a few years. I haven't found anyone so far, but I'm sure there'll be someone out there. If I just keep looking, there's got to be like other divorce lawyers who are like this. And I was like, bro, this is beautiful. Unexpected, right? Probably don't expect that. I have a friend who is a used car salesman. And I'm sure we all have a lot of stereotypes about that. I even had a thought in my head, like when I first, like before I met him, when I was about to meet him, and someone said, hey, you're going to meet this guy tonight. He's a used car salesman. My little brain, my little ego was like, oh, I bet you. And I had all the thoughts of like stereotypes. And then I was like, no, keep an open mind. Like, we're not going to judge someone before we fucking met them. I meet him. He's the most peaceful, loving, genuine, gentle, nice person. He's bald like me. So we got on like, like a house on fire with two fucking friends immediately. And he plays, musical instruments, and he's peaceful, and he does like magic mushrooms, and he goes out into the woods and just hangs out with his friends. He cooked the most amazing dinner. So that's another thing. He's a really good cook as well. That's a juxtaposition. Then he's just a genuinely lovely human being. It's so obvious how much he loves his girlfriend. His girlfriend and my girlfriend are friends. It's so obvious how much love he has in his heart. He's just very genuinely interested in everything that we're doing. I asked him, I was like, what do you do on the job? What kind of sales techniques do you use? Like what are you doing to get people to buy a car? And he's like, well, they either want to buy the car or they don't. And if they don't want to buy it, then I'm not going to make them buy a car. If they want to buy it, but they're scared, then I just talk through that stuff with them. And I was like, all right, sweet, dope, bro. That's like what I try and do with my coaching shit. I'm not going to force someone to sign up. They either want to sign up or they don't. If they're nervous or they're hesitant, I'll talk through that shit with them, but I'm not going to like make them sign up. And so that's not what you expect from the used car salesman. And obviously, there are wonderful, amazing human beings out there who happen to be used car salesmen. He's one of them. But your brain, the stereotype, is going to say, like, I bet you this guy's just a one-dimensional character who's obsessed with money, and he'll just sell people a shitty car and take their money. It's like, no, the exact opposite. And so now he's a more intriguing human being. His girlfriend obviously loves the shit out of him because he's so interesting and he has so many friends. He's like an enigma almost. And so you can be that enigma. You can be that nerdy computer scientist or computer programmer who also fucking does stand-up comedy, or who hits the gym and is a bodybuilder, or who goes out and talks to lots of women so you're confident talking to them. And they're like, wait, but aren't you supposed to be nerdy and weird? And you're like, yeah, that's like most of the people in my industry, but I don't want to be like that. I wanted to learn how to talk to people. So that's why I'm hitting on you right now. That's why I'm telling you that you're sexy. And she's like, what the fuck? I didn't expect this. You're interesting. How did you become like that? They start asking questions. How did you become like that? Was it conscious? Was it an effort? Yeah, I put a lot of effort into it. Wow. Wow, this is so fascinating to me. Like, you want to know more about that person. He goes on to say, Mr. Juxtaposition is often among the top 1% that attractive girls consider a catch, and they relish the opportunity to lock down as a boyfriend. And let's take this opportunity for me to show you my Apple plushie. He's one of my favorites. He's nice and soft. Look how fucking adorable that boy is. Hot girls are often willing to fuck him, as in Mr. Juxtaposition, for months at a time, hoping one day he'll call her his girlfriend, oftentimes knowing that that will never happen. From what I've learned from my own experience, my friends that are or aren't successful with having multiple fuck buddies and living on and off with hot girls as my roommates, it's just more intriguing, unique, and sexy to have a juxtaposition than to simply be accomplished or well-rounded. Yeah, juxtaposition is interesting, You don't have to go out and have a juxtaposition. But part of this article is giving you permission to, if you have a juxtaposition, embrace it. Don't be ashamed of it, If you're a little bit of a fucking nerd, embrace that. Share that with women. Any of you women listening, if you have some part of you that you're worried other people won't like, embrace it. Would you rather be what other people are willing to accept, or would you rather be you and find the people that think that you're dope? They think you're fucking amazing, My own experience. This is Chris, good-looking loser, talking about his own juxtapositions. Again, remembering he's a big bodybuilder guy who looked exactly like, well, that's him. So that's exactly what he looked like. But yeah, muscular, jock, gym bro. And he was much bigger than that when he was on steroids too. So just like a gym bro. So, despite my approach anxiety, obsession with the gym, body image, and very average social intelligence in my mid 20s, I've always had a bit of a juxtaposition that served me pretty well. I've always had some nerdy or non meathead, like non bodybuilder interests. I love the History Channel. I've always found European, Soviet, and other cultures fascinating. I've always been interested in health and human performance, not just for bodybuilding benefits. I've always liked to read and write non-fiction. I might even start a blog one day. Haha, very funny. Obviously, he started this blog. I've always felt a social responsibility to help those less fortunate, many times autistic children. That's a juxtaposition from this guy. I bet you might not have expected that. If you just look at this guy, would you be like, he reads the history, or he watches the History Channel, he likes to read books, and he cares about autistic and less fortunate children? Like, you wouldn't look at this guy and assume that, would you? And so when you find that out about him, aren't you intrigued? Isn't there a part of you that's like, huh, how did you get into that? Why did you start watching the History Channel? How come you care about autistic children? Why do you care about children in general? Like, why do you care about the less fortunate? Where did that come from? Like, that's interesting. You want to know more about that. I've always enjoyed discussing intelligent topics and social issues. And then this last one is exactly why I have shown off all of my plushies so far on this video. I still talk to and sleep with stuffed animals. Weird to you, but cute to girls. So yeah, there you go. That's a big juxtaposition. Would you expect this guy to have stuffed animals in his bed and cute little plushies? Probably not. Probably don't look at this guy and be like, I bet he's adorable. I bet he has cute little plushies and he talks to them and girls love it. No. There's entire subreddits, by the way, dedicated to guys who are juxtapositions. This subreddit is probably the best example of what I'm talking about. It's called r/tough guys holding pets. And then this is even more popular. It's hot guys just holding puppies. Like, women absolutely love this shit. If you ever want a really good Tinder picture, just get you looking semi-attractive. You do not have to look as attractive as these guys. If you do, congratulations, that's amazing. But just like guys holding puppies, just hold your fucking puppy, hold your dog. Like, look at that. Girls love this stuff. Believe me, girls literally swoon over this stuff. Girls are upset. If any women are watching this right now, they're just like, oh, it's a hot guy and he has a puppy and I love both of them so much. Like girls or guys with kittens, like girls love this kind of shit. So that juxtaposition of like you being an attractive guy or a masculine guy or just a guy with some confidence. You know, I'm not ultra attractive. I'm not ultra masculine, but I've worked on myself so I'm at a decent enough point. Me with plushies. I'm telling you, every woman that has ever come into my house, I have the plushies just front and center. They're on my couch that you can see when you first walk into the apartment. They're like, oh, that's so cute. What is that? Is that yours, Immy? And she's like, no, those are Andy's. Those are Andy's plushies. And she's like, why do you have all these plushies? They're so cute. And then they start fucking playing with the plushies. I'm like, I like plushies. They're cute. And so that's a beautiful fucking juxtaposition that's worked really well for me. That's not why I have plushies. I just like plushies. You know, I'm not doing it to get women, but women fucking love them. Every single woman, like 100% of them are like, that's so cute. And we will take this time to show off my little Kirby plushie. Look at that cute little face. Kirby's one of my favorite video game characters of all time. I love Kirby. So he goes on to say, given the meathead persona, you know, bodybuilder persona and appearance, girls have always considered these characteristics, you know, these juxtapositions that he talks about here, like caring about children and those who are less fortunate, talking about intelligent topics and social issues, having cute stuffed animals. Girls consider these characteristics pretty fucking attractive. These things didn't get me laid, so to speak. Yeah, not necessarily. But they did help keep girls around for longer than if I was just a one-dimensional fuckboy. And it probably helped me slowly get some girls into bed who were looking for a boyfriend. And eventually, you know, he found a wife. He's married now with kids and all of that sort of stuff. These days, I'm a walking juxtaposition or hypocrite, whatever you want to call me. Are you really Mr. Juxtaposition? A lot of guys will find this discussion to be insightful. A lot of those same guys have already convinced themselves that they already are Mr. Juxtaposition. Maybe you are, but maybe you aren't. Or even more likely, maybe nobody even knows if you aren't presenting yourself as such, whether by appearance or conversation. Yeah, if you're hiding these deeper parts of yourself, again, this all applies to men and women. If you're hiding those beautiful, unique parts of you, you know, what makes you a special little snowflake, if you're hiding that, how the fuck is anyone going to know it? If you don't talk about your goals and your hobbies and the things that are important to you because you're scared of someone judging you or scared that they'll say that's lame or dumb or stupid, then they're never going to get a chance to like that part of you. Again, is it not better to be with people that like you for you and all the parts of you rather than hiding that and just feeling shame? Why do you feel ashamed of the parts of you that you like? Go out, show those parts of you, and go out there and find the people that like those parts too. I promise there are people out there that like what you like. Even if you're a fucking chess nerd who's into programming, there are so many fucking chess nerd women out there. Go find them. Make a point at telling chicks who you are and what you're about. Yeah, exactly what I just said. Sometimes you can do so when you meet them, sometimes not. Either way, self improvement begins with taking a critical, non biased look at yourself. Make sure you do so. Remember, Mr. Juxtaposition isn't just well rounded, good at stuff, or interesting. He has two obvious characteristics that nearly directly oppose each other. Yeah, and by the way, there's nothing wrong with this bit here. I would push back on that a little bit and say, like, you can be well rounded, good at stuff, and interesting. Like, that's still something. You don't have to go out and, like, directly have a juxtaposition. It's just that a lot of you will have a juxtaposition by default, but you're afraid of it. You're making yourself one dimensional. Do you know how many times someone will ask me for feedback on their Tinder like their dating profile? And I'll say, tell me about yourself. And they'll tell me all their hobbies and what they like to do and all of that. And then I'll look at their fucking dating profile and it's so one dimensional. And I'll be like, bro, why don't you told me the thing you're most passionate about is that you like to travel. Why don't you have any traveling photos in here? And they're like, well, I don't know if, like, don't I just want to have the vibe of like I'm a sexual guy who's hot and ready to fuck? And it's like, what the fuck? That sounds incredibly boring. No. Why don't you show off all the different parts of your personality? It's almost like they're just trying to be Mr. Fuckboy and nothing deeper than that. They've shown off no hobbies, just 6 pictures of them looking hot and attractive. And it's like, this will definitely get you laid. But don't be surprised if none of the women stick around because you're showing yourself to be a little bit boring. So throw a little more of your personality in there, show off some of your hobbies. Like if you look at my profile, and my profile is nowhere near perfect, but it does the job. It's good enough. The first 2 photos are very sexual, are they not? It's literally me with Imogen and she's wearing like lingerie and she's wearing a blindfold and I'm looking, confident and masculine. The second one is a fucking threesome picture of 2 girls on collars and a leash. Like literally under, like you can't get more sexual than that. Third picture is a little bit fuckboy vibes. So is the 4th one. And then the 5th one is like, wait, is he in the middle of a podcast? And then girls ask about that. And I show them my YouTube channel. The next one is me with my friends, hanging out with the boys, having some hamburgers. The next one is like an artistic photo that I took. Look at that beautiful photo. It's all yellow trees and yellow leaves. And it looks really nice, doesn't it? Next one is a gym one. And then the last one is like, what the fuck is this? Is the entire room made of newspaper there? Are you dressed in a newspaper and you're sitting down to read the newspaper? What the hell is that? It's like, yeah, I'm reading the newspaper. I covered myself in newspaper, covered the entire room in newspaper. It took like 5 hours. And then I sat down to read the newspaper. Girls ask about that. Hey, I'm a photographer. Yeah, that's what I do. I like to do weird, out there, cool stuff. Like there's a decent amount going on in this profile. Again, not the most perfect profile, but there's some things that sort of make you go, oh, you obviously have a few different parts of your personality. Like you do a podcast. Yeah, and I also have a YouTube channel. Cool. What's this artistic photo that you took down here with the yellow leaves and stuff? That's interesting. Oh, you go to the gym. That's cool. Oh, what the fuck is this newspaper thing? That's really interesting. So you can show off different parts of your personality, but a lot of guys will just have a very one-dimensional Tinder profile because they're like, I'm just trying to get laid. That's all I'm going to show off. And it's like, nah, bro, like be a little bit more interesting, like have a little bit more about you. Once you get to know him, as in Mr. Juxtaposition, it's clear that he's not a nice guy, he's not a bad boy, or he's not some easily understood, predictable stereotype. That's what I said before, stereotype. We're basically just being a little bit outside the mold, a little bit more interesting, with nothing but a surface layer. Yeah, so we're being a little bit more than nothing but a surface layer. He's someone that can't be labeled or made sense of per normal standards and expectations. Yeah, and that makes you interesting. You just got a little bit more about you that's interesting. Being smart and lifting weights is certainly a start, but it's not quite the specific developed juxtaposition that I'm encouraging you to shoot for. By the way, I think being smart and lifting weights is enough of a juxtaposition, so I would kind of push back on that a little bit and say I think there's more than enough to start with. Again, you don't have to be this hardcore juxtaposition, any of you men or women listening. It's just about having a little bit more about you that's interesting. Start with an interesting hobby. Start with something that means something to you, that you find a lot of meaning in, and share that meaning with other people. Speaking of sharing with other people, ruff, ruff. This is my little doggy, and he's adorable. I can't remember where I fucking found this. Some of these plushies I just find in random places, like random thrift stores. Like, I buy them for like $1 or $2. I don't even know where I find all my fucking plushies. They find me. I don't find them. They find me. Juxtaposition, though related, isn't quite swag. You can kind of skip all of that. That might not make sense to you if you don't understand some of his other concepts. But as he goes on to say, again, by no means do you have to be Mr. or Mrs. Juxtaposition to get hot people into bed. It will be a huge help in keeping them around, though. Trust me. If you have a juxtaposition or are working at it, tell us what it is. Yeah, feel free to share some of your hobbies. Maybe rather than tell us about your juxtaposition, leave a comment below if you want to, talking about maybe some parts of your personality that you might feel a little bit judgmental about, or you're worried that other people will judge you. Maybe you feel a little bit of shame, or you're scared to open up. Maybe some of you are scared to tell women like, hey, by the way, I'm a fucking chess nerd. Maybe you think that they won't like that. I've had clients that love Dungeons and Dragons. I fucking love Dungeons and Dragons. I could sit there and get nerdy about that shit forever, and sometimes I do. And sometimes I'll explain it to women, and you say it in a way that they can actually understand it, that they think is cool. You're like, hey, you like Harry Potter? And they're like, yeah, of course I like Harry Potter. You're like, well, Dungeons and Dragons is just like a more fleshed out version than Harry Potter. Like, it's just like that. And they're like, well, that sounds cool. And then you're like, yeah, so in Harry Potter, everyone's like a fucking wizard. You're a wizard, Harry. You're a fucking wizard, Harry. Like, there's wizards in Dungeons and Dragons. There's also sorcerers. And they're like, what's a sorcerer? And you're like, well, so a sorcerer is someone that was it just happens. They got a feel for it. It's like artistic for them. They didn't have to learn anything. A wizard has to learn. That's why Harry and Hermione and Ron and all those people go to wizard school, so they can learn how to be a wizard. That's what a wizard does in Dungeons and Dragons. You got to learn everything. But a sorcerer or a sorceress, they just kind of got a feel for it. It's like they just got the natural talent. And so some of them take that shit for granted because they were born with it. They didn't have to work at it. So sometimes the wizards get jealous of the sorcerers, and sometimes vice versa. And you're starting to share this shit. And she goes, wow, that's interesting. And you're like, yeah. There's also another class that can do magic called warlocks. And she's like, what's that? And you're like, well, the devil. Yeah, well, yeah. Well, imagine if you sold your soul to the devil and he gave you magic powers. And she's like, wait, that's interesting. Yeah. But then the devil will come back and like manipulate you and make you be his slave and make you do what he wants. And you might have to do some horrible shit for the devil because you signed a contract. He gave you magic powers and he can kind of use you. And she's like, wow, that's interesting. You're like, yeah. And you see how I just made that semi-interesting, even to a bunch of you that have probably never heard of Dungeons and Dragons. You probably think it's the most boring, nerdy, fucking retarded shit ever. But what I just said sounded somewhat interesting, right? That I could flesh that out into the plot of like a movie or something. You could see any of those different things I just described. The sorcerer versus the wizard versus like the warlock. That could be a movie in itself. There's some interesting shit there. And so if you can share your hobbies in a way that other people actually find interesting by talking about them in an interesting way, or figuring out why someone or how someone who hasn't ever heard of it could actually resonate with it and find it interesting, then people will love your nerdy, weird, interesting parts of yourself. So if any of you would like to, feel free to drop a comment below and share with us some of the hobbies that you either used to feel ashamed about, or that you still feel ashamed about, or that you just don't have a lot of pride in, or you're worried that people, especially in a dating context, will judge you for those. And let's finish up with me sharing my absolute favorite. This is Noodles. Noodles has like the cutest little face. Look at that cute little fucking eyelashes. So cute. Big. Fucking giant. And look, there's like a little chili. It's like a bowl of noodles, like ramen noodles. There's like noodles in there. And you got little bits of like spring onion, although I think in America you call that like, you call it cilantro? I can't remember. What do you call the onion that's like long and green? Do you call that cilantro? Anyway, there's the green, we call it spring onion. There's little chopsticks. That's what these are. These are the two little chopsticks. And there's a little chili. Look at that cute little chili. This is my favorite one. I use this as like an actual pillow, like on my couch. It's like big and soft. So yeah, those are my plushies. Thank you for coming down memory lane with me with the plushies. I have way more than what I just showed you guys and girls. There's a whole bunch in my second in the bedroom. Like there's a bunch of shit in there. But yeah, I'm really interested to hear what kind of hobbies or parts of yourself you feel a little bit maybe not super proud of, or you want to be proud of it, and you just like a little help with that. We'll all give you a big dose of like, wow, that's cool. I promise if you write your hobbies, we will say, wow, that's cool. If you want any more help with dating, sex, relationships, love, self-love, embracing your authentic self, being a little bit more you and not caring about what other people think, I have coaching, I have payment plans and all that stuff to make it easy for you to sign up. I will jump on a free call with you if you'd like to talk about any of your concerns. I obviously won't pressure you. We'll just sit there and have a chat. No pressure. You either sign up or you don't. I'm happy either way. You'll be happy either way. I will leave a link in the description below to that. But big shout out to Mr. Chris from Good Looking Loser. I have so much love for this man right here. He gave me so unbelievably much when it comes to my dating life, my sex life, my romantic life, especially being honest and being my authentic self. And this article that I read out today, this Juxtaposition article, is always been one that sat with me in my heart because it really did help me embrace who I wanted to be. And the line that stuck, oh, that was a hard one to say. The line that stuck out at me the most was where he said, I have plushies, I have stuffed animals, and I talk to them. And if this big masculine, hyper masculine bodybuilder guy with a deep voice, gym bro, jock in school, played football, all that shit, can have stuffed animals, then maybe I can be okay being a little bit nerdy. I'm into computer programming. Maybe it's okay that I'm a little autistic. Maybe it's all those things are okay. I can just go out there and find the women that like me. And I promise you, no matter who you are, man, woman, whatever weird hobbies that you think you have or hobbies that you think are weird, whatever you think is weird about you, I promise there is someone out there that will love you for you. But that's got to start with you. You got to start by loving yourself. And part of how you do that is by embracing the parts that are uniquely you.